What's going on, guys? My name is Dabari. You're watching PreRolled Exotics. I do apologize. I've been kind of busy moving and getting everything kind of put together, so do apologize for that. But for now, I do have an actual update. While I was moving, though, I did have the pleasure of interviewing a guy we probably all really know from Hognose Hogs. His name's Germaine. Excellent, cool guy, man. It's definitely a pleasure. Shout outs to him. I'll leave all his information on the description too. Had a nice chat with him, so I got everything on video. We recorded, did a nice interview. He was nice enough to let me do that. So I'll give you guys an update on everything that's been going on in the next video. Plus, trust me, I got a lot of things going on. But for now, sit back, relax, and enjoy the interview I did with Germaine. All right, cool. So first of all, welcome. Thank you. I appreciate it. My name is Dabari with PreRolled Exotics. I got my guest Germaine here with Hognose Hogs. I'm pretty sure you guys know him already. Welcome. Pleasure to have you. Thank you again. So anything, I just wanted to go over a couple things. Like my first question is pretty simple. You know, like how long have you liked snakes? At one point did you get serious in terms of like growing your collection and kind of moving forward with, as far as like having like a single pet, you know what I mean? Until like, I really want to expand and start collecting more and get more and more.
Okay, so I've always been interested in like animals ever since I was a kid. Growing up, I had hamsters, dogs, geckos, frogs, hermit crabs, and everything. But one animal that my mother would not let me get was a snake. So
Me too.
growing up
That's
as a
crazy.
kid, I never had a pet snake. I was never able even to find a snake in the wild, but I always loved them. And about 3 years ago, I currently live in Florida, but I'm from Louisiana.
Oh, okay.
I remember, I don't know, I may have been driving somewhere, and I saw a sign saying that a local reptile expo, such and such date. And I never heard of a reptile expo in my life. The only time I've seen snakes was in like PetSmart. And I was like, you know what, that might be something I'm interested in. And so I went to the reptile expo, and it blew my mind. And like I had no idea that you can buy like just like the ball python, seeing all the different morphs and stuff. I had no idea so much was out there, and that you can actually purchase these animals. And so the first time I went to a reptile expo, I knew I was going to get something, but I was like, I'm not ready for a snake or anything too difficult. So I bought like a scorpion, just a little scorpion. And then the next expo, I bought a tarantula. And then the third expo, I was like, you know what? I think I'm ready for a snake. So I bought a Kenyan sand boa. So this was probably about 3.5 years ago. And then after that, I was like, this is pretty easy to take care of. And after the sand boa, I end up getting um, a ball python. I had a California king snake, a Mexican black king snake. I bought a water snake, a banded water snake. I just had all kind of stuff. Had tarantulas, more tarantulas, and I didn't really. I was just like, I just like the animals, and so 2 years ago, I decided to move to Florida just for a job change, and I end up selling all my animals. And I was like, I think I'm probably going to be done with that. But when I moved down here to Florida, I was like, it was a Repticon the next week. And I was like, I'm just going to go and have something to do since I just moved down to Florida. I don't know anybody. I'm not going to buy anything. And I went there and I actually didn't buy anything, but it was hard. And it just kind of sparked my passion for it. And so the next Reptile Expo, I bought me a tokay gecko. And then I was like, you know what? I think I want to get into snakes. But I didn't really know what type of snake I wanted to get into. I know I didn't want to get into ball pythons because I felt like the market's too saturated. And it was just with all the different morph combinations, I was like, it's too overwhelming for me. And then I didn't want to buy rats because rats are expensive.
Yeah, exactly.
So I was like, I want to get a snake that's kind of small, that can stay on mice. And then at the same time, not too overwhelming in terms of learning about the different morphs. And so that's when I went to the Tampa Bay Repticon and I saw a hognose snake for the first time. And I was like, I think this might be something that I would be interested in. It kind of fits everything that I'm looking for in terms of a reptile to breed. And I didn't get it. I didn't get a hognose that show. But then the next show, I started doing more research and I got my first hognose snake. And then once I got that first one, that's when I just started researching everything and kind of starting to plan.
Go down the rabbit hole.
Breeding. Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, you just definitely segue. That was my second question too. Is when would you focus on hognose as opposed to other snakes? We just answered that, of course, too. But that's kind of funny. I kind of almost had the same kind of story because my first pet, my mom bought me a frog. So I just wanted something unique. You know what I mean? I wanted a dog. My mom wasn't big on dogs like that. We've had dogs before, but she knew I wasn't going to clean it up like that. I was still the kid, and she wasn't good with cats at all. She wasn't going to do no spiders, no snakes. Those are her rules. And I was just begging. And finally, she came home with a frog, and that was my first, like reptile kind of experience. And then, like you said, after that, I found out about expos. Went to an expo with my cousin for the first time, and like you said, my mind was just like, "Whoa, wait a minute! Like wait a minute! They come in different colors. Like it was crazy." So that's crazy. How kind of it's almost similar how people kind of get into it, and they realize how deep this industry goes, and then it's like, whoa, like like we don't. It's not really out there like that. One thing I've noticed for sure, but like me keeping snakes, everyone's always interested in like, oh, you keep snakes, but then it's like they don't know how far it really goes until they actually start doing the research, and then it goes from there. So another question I had is, do you see like more minorities getting involved in the reptile industry? Do you see it like branching out towards like because I don't know if you watch Miguel from Always Evolving Pythons,
yes,
but he's doing a lot of stuff where he's going like to Mexico and highlighting what they're doing out there because they're coming up in the industry too now, and especially with ball pythons and stuff. So do you see like more like, because I just know how I was raised, the stereotypical kind of black family kind of, snakes are bad, you know what I mean? My mom was all against it. But at the same time, I can always see like that light in their eyes, like when I bring home a snake, they wouldn't want to touch it. They act like they were scared, but then they'd be watching me set it up. Every time I want to feed it, they want to be around it. Like they're so curious. So it's like, I think it's just like there's just like a little gap that we're missing where it's like, hey, we got to introduce this. You know what I mean? Like I told you when I saw you on YouTube, I was like, yo, that made me feel like more comfortable. Like, hey, wait a minute, man, everyone's doing this. It's not just one demographic or one like rich people or nothing like that. Like it's for everybody. You know what I mean? So do you see like more minorities getting involved later on as it continues to grow?
I think so. There's a few people. I know Precious Pythons. I know a guy in New Orleans named Reese's Pythons. He's black. He's from New Orleans. He has ball pythons. And the crazy thing is, like you say, in the African American community, especially with snakes, it's like a no. I'm not sure why, but like I said before, my mom would never let me get a snake when I was a kid. And the crazy thing is, when I got my first Kenyan sand boa and I told her about it, she wanted to see it, and I'm like, and then she even held it. And I was like, are you serious? Like you my childhood, I couldn't have a snake. And now that I got one, now you're not scared of it anymore. and it's crazy. It's kind of like the same story. Like a lot of my friends and everything, I tell them that I have a snake. They're scared. And I was like, you know what, just come over. And they're not as bad as you think they are. It's a lot of misinformation about them. You're more likely to get bit by a dog or a cat compared to a snake.
I hate that question. Snake. That's my first one. Everyone's like, does it bite? And the only thing I always say is like anything with a mouth can bite you. You know what I mean? Like if it was a hamster, you wouldn't be asking me the same question. But yes, it does bite. It can bite, but it's probably not going to And usually as soon as they hold it and they realize like you're the one that has the fear, you know what I mean? Like the snake doesn't want nothing to do with you. It's not coming to attack you. It's not looking at you for food. Like it's just people are like so naive when they think about things like that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, then once people actually start getting that experience with them, actually holding them and realize it's not really that bad, then they become more curious about it. So
I noticed
definitely
they kind of feel it's almost like they get humiliated too, because they're like, man, I thought they were slimy, I thought they were scary, I like had all these preconceptions, and then now I'm actually holding one, and it just all that's gone. Now I'm just like, wow, I was naive. Like so that's what I do like about snakes. So it definitely gives people a different gets you out your comfort zone, and then once you realize it, you're like, man, that was stupid for me to be so feared. People are only afraid of things they don't understand.
Exactly.
All right. So as far as like morphs go, how far do you think hogs will go? Like, because you got like ball pythons, of course, you got pieballs and clowns and all these recessives and co-dominants, all kinds of things. I see a lot with hogs, but it's just like, how far do you think it could really go though? You think there's like a limit? Like some species of snakes, like I think reticulated pythons, they only have like a certain amount of morphs, and most of them are like polygenic and stuff like that. Ball pythons are special because they have so many of them, but you think, compared to every other snake, I haven't really seen any other snake that has as many morphs as ball pythons have. You think it's just like a one-off thing, or do you think like hogs get there?
I was talking to Jeff Gelwood about that, and the reason why ball pythons have so many morphs is because so many are imported from the wild into the United States, like thousands every year. When you compare that to hognose snakes, there's a few states that prohibit you from even having hognose snakes, and a lot of times you can't get them out of the wild due to state regulations. So it's very few people that are actually bringing in hognose snakes from the wild to get that wild blood to see if there's any new type of morphs. But in terms of like the new morph combinations that are being developed, I think it's in the next 3 to 5 years, it's going to definitely change. I feel like hognose snakes, we're still at the infancy. You rarely see a 3 visual recessive hognose.
Yeah.
And there's still a lot of combinations that haven't been done. Like for instance, the sable lavender that hasn't even been done yet.
That's true.
And so I feel like getting in right now is the best time. And then hognose snakes have a pretty good value, and they're holding their value very well. And compared to ball pythons, boa constrictors, some of the larger snakes, your overhead is going to be a lot less keeping hognose snakes because they can stay on mice their entire lives. When you compare that to rats and rabbits and everything like that, I couldn't imagine just paying that food bill and then getting larger, having more space for larger cages to keep them in. So
that was one of the main things
that they're going to expand.
No, definitely, I definitely agree too. This is one of the reasons why I jumped in it too, because I did a lot of research. I've had boas before. I've had corn snakes. I've had black milks, not Mexican black snakes, but black milks. I've had Mexican milk snakes, and then ball pythons, of course. I had a lot of those just because of the morphs and things like that. But then like when I had to move too, because I'm originally from the Bay Area. When I moved to Vegas, I ended up had to sell my animals too, so because it just wasn't feasible for me to try to move all that when I'm trying to start over. So then when I was starting to get back in it, I'm like, okay, I really want a snake I can focus on, a snake that's not going to take up too much space, so, one that I can actually keep. And like you said, hognose checked every box for me because they're still different. They're still pretty much new in the whole morph game, in my opinion, because it's so much that's untapped. And then when they get big, I don't need like a big 28 quart rack. I mean, the bigger the better, but you don't need a big giant rack system to hold a bunch of females in the rat bill. Like you said, it's just like it gets too much after that. So you're definitely right about that. And that kind of segues into my next question. Would you ever keep a big snake? If you had say you had time and money and everything, everything that was given, all like the little necessities that that wouldn't allow most people to do it. Say if you did have your own facility, would you be interested in a big snake, or are you just kind of like, nah? I lost him. I got connection.
Okay, I'm back.
Oh, okay, cool. Did you hear the question or?
Yeah, will I ever keep a big snake?
Mm-hmm.
Probably not. I think the largest snake I would keep is a corn snake. And I actually just sold my corn snake that I have because I want to focus more.
You sold the corn snake?
Yeah, because I was like, the thing about corn snakes, I I don't really know too much about their genetics and things like that. And then another thing, I don't know how to sex a corn snake in terms of popping a snake. I never could figure that out. The good thing about
Yeah.
hognose snakes, for the most part, you can visually sex them,
Yeah,
which
that's
is
another good
another
thing too.
pro.
Yeah,
But
for
yeah,
sure.
but in terms of like a boa constrictor or something like that, I'm not interested in that at all. They're nice to see. I would like going to reptile expos or a zoo, but it's not something that I would like to keep personally.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, corn snakes, man, their genetics are crazy, man. I try to dibble on that just a little bit, but it wasn't even worth it because, like you said, they don't hold their value like that much. You know what I mean? Like, in one snake will have like 20 eggs, and you got like all these babies that are only like $20 each, and you don't want to just give them away for nothing. It's just yeah. I think I'm good on the big snakes too, though. All right. So now that you do live in Florida, though, do you have a lot of time to go herping? Like, because I mean that's like a reptile lover's dream place right there.
Oh yeah, I do. Right now, I haven't been doing it as much because we were in the rainy season, and a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
trails that I usually herp it was flooded. But
Mm.
it's actually been pretty dry. Like I actually went out yesterday and walked around. I didn't really see anything, but yeah, that's something that I love to do, especially like on the weekends. I'll go for like a 3 hour walk,
Mm.
just looking for animals, and I found a lot of snakes. I usually find like black racers. I found a few pretty large corn snakes, like 4.5 foot corn snakes, garter snakes. I find a lot of gopher tortoises.
Mm.
And I use an app called iNaturalist, and so I take pictures of them and I kind of log them in, where like the areas that I find them. So yeah, it's a lot of wildlife down here in Florida, and
That's
yeah, I
nice.
definitely like to be outdoors as much as possible.
Yeah, I'm trying to get more into that for sure. It's just with work and everything like that. By the time I get home, I'm tired. I'm like, but I gotta find some more time to get out there. Then I mean, maybe I'll probably look for like a Facebook group that's in like in the Vegas area because there's a lot.
Yeah.
Like we have like desert tortoises and banded geckos, and we have a lot of we have rattlesnakes. I wouldn't want to find one. I mean, it'd be cool to find one, but I probably wouldn't mess with it too much. But you know,
Yeah, I
there's a lot
found
of
a couple Eastern Diamondback rattlesnakes.
that's one of my favorite snakes actually though. So I mean
Yeah,
that would be pretty. That's like a lifer just to see like, yo, that's an Eastern Diamondback rattlesnake. Like that's
yeah.
pretty cool. And then just leave it alone. All right, let's see. What's my next one? What, in your opinion, since you keep both, what are the biggest pros and cons between the Eastern and the Western? And not a lot of people keep both, so I think you're in a kind of a privileged position. You can actually speak on this.
Yeah, so I have a pair of Eastern hognose snakes. I have a melanistic male and I have an orange phase. I would say the pros of the Eastern hognose snake is one, like you said, not a lot of people keep Easterns,
Yeah.
and and people like them. It's just hard to find them, and when you do find them, they go pretty quick. I really love the colors, and I feel like in terms of like genetics, it's pretty untapped. Like if you do a Google search on Eastern hognose genetics, you're not really going to find anything. And I think a lot of their colors are more locality based. They do have a few recessive genes that have been found, like albino, and it's only a few people that have albino Eastern hognose snakes. I would say the cons to the Eastern hognose snakes is getting them to eat mice on a consistent basis. I find that they're pretty delicate in terms of environmental changes, because both of the Easterns that I have, before I purchased them, they were eating frozen thawed mice unscented before I got them. But when I got them, they weren't trying to eat mice at all. So I had to use various different methods using RepiLinks, different forms of scenting. But once they start to eat mice unscented, then they're perfectly fine. They also seem to have more of an attitude than the Western hognose snakes, but it's basically the same thing as the Westerns. They just bluff strike. It's just all bluff. They hood out more,
A lot
but
more,
they're
man.
pretty cool, man. I really like them, and I can't wait to breed them. I am kind of nervous about breeding them, just in terms of getting the babies to eat. I'm pretty confident that I can get the babies to eat, but in terms of selling them and having a customer not being able to get them to eat, I think that's my biggest concern.
Yeah, I definitely want to do like a disclaimer, or at least whoever you sell them to, talk to them, let them know like, yo, these are Easterns. Make sure you did your research because there's no guarantee. I mean, because even with the Westerns, like I think I said on one of my videos, like they were eating fine, frozen thawed, 10 meals, everything was great. Yeah, the breeder was confident. I was confident. Got home, nothing. Nope, didn't want nothing to do with it. But it's just, you know what I mean? I think that's how it is. But the Eastern, you're right though. They flat out a lot more. I've seen your videos, and I don't know why. To me, it's like that. Just I don't. This is a little bit too intimidating for me. I'm like, man, this thing is wild, and the way they strike, they just go all out. Like the Hognose, the Westerns is kind of like it's almost hilarious. Like really, dude. Like you look cute. You look too cute to like harm anybody. But the Easterns, they got like that real mean, pronounced like. They look like they mean business for real. But Onyx, your black one, your melanistic one, that one was beautiful. And the other one though, with the oranges, man, they are super pretty though. So I see why.
And I have no idea what the babies are gonna look like.
That's true too. You have Easterns in Florida, don't you?
No, we have southern hognose snakes like in northern Florida, but I don't think Easterns. If they do have Easterns in Florida, it'll be northern Florida.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's see. Now, what do you think about like all the other countries that are interested in hognoses? Like I think China is pretty big, Europe's pretty big, and like I know it feels like they've been doing it for a while because they have like a lot of high end morphs over there, like the Swiss chocolate and stuff like that. But it's like, dang, for a snake that's native here, you would think that we would have more, you know what I mean, more genetics over here. But it seems like they're ahead of us over there, in my opinion, at least. It looks like they are.
I wouldn't say that they're ahead of us, but a lot of top breeders export snakes over there. Like you say, China, Japan. I don't think they can import to Korea anymore, but definitely Europe. And like you said, it's crazy. Like the Swiss chocolate gene, which was produced in Switzerland, and it's crazy that like a new gene pops up in Europe. And,
right.
I actually spoke to the guy on Instagram, and he said he bought 2 normal hognose snakes. They probably were brother and sister, and he bred them together, and he popped out the Swiss chocolate. And I'm like, man, you got lucky with that.
Must be nice.
But yeah, it's definitely picking up. I think even their prices are cheaper in Europe. They definitely don't have as much as we do in the United States. You can kind of look on Morph Market. But you do have some breeders over there that are producing some nice stuff. I think the guy in Germany, he produces more hognose snakes than anybody. I can't pronounce his name, but yeah, it's a lot going on in Europe with the Western hognose snakes.
Yeah, so I'm trying to set my game up, so trying to keep pace with them. Let's see, and then will you or have you ever kept hogs on bioactive? I know that's starting to pick up a lot of gain in all the forums and stuff now too.
No, I'm not really sure how to set up a bioactive enclosure. I would like to do that. It seems like it's pretty convenient in terms of like spot cleaning and cleaning up the feces, but I haven't really looked too much into it. I think I would maybe one day maybe try it out for a few of my hognose snakes, see how if I can do a bioactive in my rack system and just kind of see how the snakes adapt to that. But right now I haven't tried it yet. I just used the aspen chips, but definitely if that's something that you can do, I think it does have its benefits.
Yeah, me too. I definitely do. Like, I only have my super Arctic in the tank right now. And like, when I move into a bigger room and stuff like that, I might consider bioactive because I heard like, it enriches them and all that stuff. Like you said, spot cleaning makes it easier. I don't think it's mandatory, but I think it definitely would, probably give some benefits. Benefits. But like you said, I'm not too sure on bioactive either because then you got to get in the isopods and all that stuff. Yeah. And I'm just. Yeah, I mean, maybe one day.
I haven't really looked into the isopods.
Yeah, exactly.
The type of soil and keeping it, the moisture levels and humidity. I haven't looked into.
And that's another issue too, because a lot of bioactive they use live plants. So for live plants, you got to have a little bit of humidity, and that's like hognoses don't like humidity. So that's another issue. That you got to research before you go dive in. So yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm racks all the way. All right, and then I guess it kind of falls into the same thing. How do you feel about a UVB supplemental lighting? Kind of the same thing, huh?
Yeah. I don't think it's definitely not necessary. Most of the large breeders don't use it, but if you have a setup to where you may have a few hognose snakes or you just have a pet hognose and you want to have more of a naturalistic enclosure, I don't see anything wrong with using it. But like I said, it's not something that you have to do. But there are some benefits, especially like with vitamin D synthesis, even though you can supplement with calcium and vitamin D. But like I say, it depends on what you want to do. If you're somebody that's trying to breed on not even just a large scale, but even on a smaller scale, I don't think it's doable. because you got to think about it. If you have 10 hognose snakes and you want to set them all up in bioactive with UVB, that's 10
Yeah.
different tanks. You're going to have a heat mat for each one of them, a thermostat for each one of them, and it's going to take up a lot of space.
Yeah, you need timers for your lights and all that. Yeah, that's a lot. I'm good off all that too. Let's see, where did you get your racks from?
I got most of my racks from Repticon. So Reptile
Okay.
Expos were vendors that sell them. I also picked up one of my racks from. Actually, I have 3 racks that I bought from Craigslist. I always go on Craigslist to see if people have stuff for sale, especially down here in Florida, because everybody has animals and
Yeah,
reptiles.
that's true.
It's
That's
real
true.
easy to find stuff. I bought my incubator off of Craigslist. It was brand new. He just got out of reptiles and he wanted to sell it, and I got it for like half off of the retail price. So I'm always on Craigslist seeing if people want to sell their racks or anything like that. So yes, either the
Smart.
Reptile Expo or Craigslist where I got my
See, I
racks.
tried to do that. That's what I did my first time, my first go around. This go around, I was looking forever. I was on Facebook Marketplace. I was on Craigslist
Mm-hmm.
every day. I was even looking out of state, just trying to see how far. I was willing to make the drive, but I couldn't find anything. So I had to order one from Sea Serpents. It took like about like 4 or 5 weeks. You know what I mean? I was happy when I got it, but yeah, I definitely wish I could have just went to a reptile show. But it was still like a little COVID time too, so
Mm-hmm.
there's no shows on that thing. But I was like, I need a rack though, because at the rate I'm getting these hog noses, I can't. These
Yeah.
tubs ain't working no more. I had wires everywhere.
Yeah. I definitely recommend like the Reptile Expos because they're already built. And the thing about Craigslist, I would put a disclaimer with this. The rack that I did get from Craigslist was pretty beat up, and I had to replace the heat tape and everything, clean it
Yeah,
off. Like the guy did not take care of the rack, but it was at such a good price, it kind of made
yeah.
sense. And yeah, like the heat tape was just fried, like it had burn marks and everything. So I
Oh
replaced all the
yeah.
racks and just got rewired all the heat tape and everything like that. So yeah, that's definitely something you want to look out for, making sure that before you give them the money, you kind of really look
Yeah.
look over the racks to make sure everything is okay.
Especially that heat tape too. That's the worst
Yeah,
thing you want to do is skip out, miss a burn spot or something like that. Put all your
burn your
animals in,
house
plug it
down or
up, and
something.
yeah, man, oh man, that's the worst. So yeah, I mean, honestly, if it's bad, just replace it like you did. It's the easiest way to do it. Now, I know you said, so I've seen your videos too, but you just mentioned you use sandy chips, right?
Yep.
Is there a reason why you use those as opposed to the aspen shavings?
So I've used all kind of stuff. I've used the aspen shavings. I've also used hemp bedding, and now I use the sandy chips. I think I like sandy chips the best because to me it lasts longer, especially when it gets wet. And it's really easy to spot clean. Aspen is pretty good as well, but I felt like whenever that aspen gets wet, it molds quicker, and also the aspen shavings seem to be dustier compared
Yeah.
to the sandy chips. Also, like I said, I tried the hemp bedding. The hemp bedding is pretty good. The only thing about the hemp bedding that I didn't like is because it's a darker bedding. I couldn't, in terms of like spot cleaning, especially like a baby snake, you're not gonna find the poop. It
Oh, I
blends
didn't think
in
about
so
that.
well with the
Yeah.
hemp bedding that it was very absorbent. It took away the odor, but I could not find the poop at all. The only time I could spot clean is with my adult hognose snakes. But if you have a baby, it's
Good
spot
luck.
cleaning is impossible with hemp bedding.
Yes, we just I'm dumping out the whole thing and starting over. All right. Now, would you say, in your opinion, do you think it's better, like, say, for a starting breeder to start off with a lot of males or a lot of females? I know most people would usually say females, but is there any reason why males would be a smarter way to go?
Yeah, you definitely want to. I would say probably start off with females because females take longer to grow. So
Exactly. Yeah.
they take 2 to 2.5 years. But don't count the males out, man. You definitely need some males. I wouldn't even mind getting a male and female at the same time because usually people say that a male will be ready to breed in 1 year, but if he's a picky eater, he might not be. So you may
True.
want to grow him up and start breeding him in 2 years with the female. And then the older that they get, the larger the male will get and the more fertile. And you won't have any issues with him being really small compared to the female, which is like 4 times his
That's true
size.
too. That's actually a really good point because I really brought this question up just for me because I was still trying to focus. Like I was trying so hard to get a sable and I couldn't find one, but I finally found one. I'm not gonna say who. I'm gonna wait till the video, but I got one and it was a male though. I was like, damn, I really wanted a female. But like, I gotta have some kind of sable though because they're just like you can't find one at all, and I have to somehow get a sunburst, you know. So that's definitely my plans. But I just couldn't find it. I was like, you know what? I don't feel bad about getting this male because I'm still gonna grow him up, still gonna raise them. But then, like you said, like the bigger he gets, the less chance he has of getting eaten. He's gonna be more and more productive. Like, yeah, that makes sense. So I was thinking, like, man, all my males gonna be ready, and my females aren't gonna be ready. I'm just gonna have males sitting around, but it's not like it's gonna hurt them or something.
Yeah, and the males, they can pretty much breed their whole life. And I would say, like, in terms of buying a male, in some instances, males I feel are more valuable than females, especially if you have a male that carries a lot of recessive genes. Like if he's het,
Yeah.
maybe he's a visual recessive and he's het for 2 other recessives, then you can use that one male on like 3 or 4 different females
Yeah, that's true too. You can spread
compared
your mail
to.
around. Yeah,
Mhm.
that
So
is
yeah.
true. All right. Do you bermate your snakes? If so, how do you do it?
Yes, I do. And I'm actually going to start brewmating my first pair this weekend. So I did it last year for the first time. And so basically um, so 3 weeks before I start the brumation process, I stop feeding the snakes. So I
Make sure
stop
they're
feeding them
empty.
for 2 weeks. And then on the 3rd week, I take them out of the rack and take them off of heat and just keep them at ambient room temperature. And I
Okay.
put them in my closet and just keep the closet door closed so it can be dark. And then the following week, then that's when I introduced them to I have a wine cooler that I use that I don't even use. I just use it for brumation. And I set it on the highest temperature, which is like around 62 degrees. And I keep them at that temperature for like a week. And then after that, I drop it down to 55 degrees. And then I brumate them for 3 months. And so, yeah. And so, like I say, I did it my first time last year. I was nervous. I was like, I hope these snakes don't die.
Right.
But everything went good, and I think it really benefited my snakes, especially my female, my Arctic Conda, because before brumation, she was pretty off and on in terms of eating. She was very like skittish, and a lot of times I would have to leave the mouse in her enclosure and just let her eat on her own. And a lot of times she wouldn't even eat. But after brumation, like for some reason she's not even scared of me anymore, and she's never missed a meal since brumation. Like she will run out of the enclosure to get a mouse. It's crazy. And even my male, like he's still kind of off and on, but as soon as I took him out of brumation, like his appetite was just spot on. So it's definitely beneficial. And so last year I brumated with my substrate. I used the aspen chips, and I kept a water dish in there the whole time. And so once a week, like early in the morning where it was still dark, I would go in there and check on them and change their water out. But after speaking with Jeff Gelwood, what he does is he kind of tries to simulate what they do in the wild, because they go underground in burrows and they're in soil and they don't have access to water. They're just in damp soil. So this year I'm going to use cocoa fiber mixed with sand, and I'm going to moisten it, and I'm going to have them in there without any water, just a moist substrate so they can burrow down and hibernate for 3 months. And I'm going to see how that is.
Now, if so like say in my case, I'm not gonna breed this year, obviously. But do you think do I need to brumate my snakes? Or are they okay just being up for the rest of the year? Or you think it'd be better if I try to put them down? I mean,
Yeah, I
I
feel
know,
like
like a lot of people say it'll benefit it too, but I'm just like then I gotta
yeah,
buy a wine
it's
cooler.
beneficial, but it's not, like you said, it's not necessary, especially if you're not going to breed your snakes this year. Especially like with my babies, I'm not going to brumate them at all.
Yeah.
I'm going to brumate my adults that I plan on breeding, and I'm also going to brumate any of my snakes that are picky eaters.
Okay, yeah, that makes
So,
sense.
yeah.
I've heard that before too. If they're picky, cool them out as soon as they wake up. And like you said, the attitude,
Yeah.
not attitude, their attitude's back and their appetite's back.
Mhm.
So that's cool. All right, what are your best tips for like getting a stubborn hog to eat? Like what's like one of your go-to tricks that usually works the best for you? Because I know like
Ooh.
just so many. Sometimes people are like,
Man.
well, I tried this, I tried that, I tried this, and they get so frustrated. But like, say like you got a snake that's not eating. What's the first thing you like to do?
Okay. Yeah, I've tried basically everything. Okay, especially with I'm learning a lot from my babies that I just hatched out, because they've been off and on eaters. So the first thing I do if I have a picky eater is I try the method where I dip the mouse in water and try to put the mouse up to their mouth and let them drink the water off the mouse. And sometimes they'll that sensation, that taste, they'll latch on to the mouse. But sometimes that doesn't always work, especially if you have a hognose snake that's very skittish and just soon as you try to do that, they're running from you. And you can't, there's no way you can hold a mouse up to their mouth because they're trying to get away from you. So I've actually been experimenting these last few weeks with my baby snakes because I have 2 of them that are like that. And I've noticed that if I try feeding them in the morning when they're asleep, like when they're curled up, and I get the pinky dip in water and put it to their mouth when they're asleep and wake them up like that, I found that they're more likely to drink off the mouse without running away. And I've actually had success with using that technique. So that's a technique I've been experimenting, a newer one that I've been experimenting with. I've also scented, and I'm pretty quick to scent. Like some people are kind of opposed to scenting, but I'm like, I really don't care. As long as they eat, that's the most important thing to me.
Well, my whole thing was everyone was had me nervous, like, oh, if you sent it, then they'll be stuck on it, and you'll be scenting forever, and that's just not true. Yeah, I was like, when I got over, I'm like, no, wait a minute, man, my snake needs to eat. And now they're just pounding food. I'm like, nah. So I tell everybody, like, if you want to scent, go ahead. If that's not working, try 5 days later with some scent. It's easy.
So yeah, I use sardines. Sardines is usually my go-to. I've also started scenting, but like I'll get like a pinky and kind of cut it open and dip another pinky into the guts. And as nasty as that sound, a lot of times that works as well. I've used Reptilinks. Reptilinks worked with my melanistic Eastern hognose snake, but a lot of my hognose snakes will not eat Reptilinks. So that's not always something that will always work. Also, if you have like a baby hognose snake and you have a huge enclosure, which a lot of new people do, definitely want to put them in a smaller enclosure, have them hide, and just let them be secure.
And when we say small, we mean like small.
Yeah.
People we mean like small. It's crazy.
Yeah, especially for the baby. They just want to be secure. They're scared of everything. And also just kind of being patient. That's one thing I've learned about it. Like how you try feeding them. If they don't eat, wait 5 days, 4 or 5 days or the next week.
Exactly.
They're gonna survive.
Yeah, I'll check. I'll keep track of weights and everything like that. I think my female, she was like the hardest one. My female anaconda, she was like the longest one. She was just so stubborn. She only dropped like 1 pound, and I was like, all right, I started getting nervous. And after I watched your video, I instantly got Reptilinks and stuff like that, and she started eating those, thankfully. But I wasn't like too much worried about it. I was just like, I'm not gonna stress her out and stress myself out and try all these different kind of things and. Just put her back in, let her figure it out. Next thing you know, a couple days later, she's in front of the tub doing her dance. Like, yeah, okay, you hungry? All right, are you ready to try again? But yeah, patience is key though, for sure. Definitely.
Just about every one of my hognose snakes went a length of time without eating. And that just comes from experience. Like if you have hognose snakes, especially if you get more, sometimes you can get one that's a very consistent eater, but as you grow your collection, you will deal with a picky eater or a snake that just fasts. And I've had snakes that fast for 2 to 3 months, and then out of nowhere they just start eating consistently. Like you just have to just be patient. Like I every time on feeding day, they're the first ones that I try feeding. If they don't eat, we try again next week, and just continue doing that, and eventually they'll eat. If they're like small, if they're like babies and they're not eating, then I'll try like the brumation method to see if that'll kind of get them started.
Smart. It's one of the things I like about hogs though, because every hog is like so unique, so different. You never know what you're gonna get. Every snake has their own personality. Like you can clearly see some will eat, some will just open up their mouth, and some will. It's just crazy. Each one's different. So that's why I definitely like that challenge about it. Like as opposed to just having like a ball python, where just kind of just wiggle it there and just see. You know what I mean? It's like nah,
they kind of lay there.
Yeah, like it just wasn't for me. So I definitely appreciate that about them. It doesn't get frustrating, but now that I know them, it doesn't bother me at all. Like, oh, you don't eat today? Okay, cool. I bet your sister will eat, and she'll eat. So it's all good. All right, let's see. Is there anything now that you definitely wish you knew when you first got started? Just breeding, collecting, just in the hobby in general, especially with hobbies.
Yeah, I guess one thing that I wish I could have done, I could have paid attention to more at the beginning was kind of planning my breeding. When I first started, I was just kind of getting whatever snake that I like, whatever
Mhm.
looked good. And I didn't really have a breeding plan. So if I was to get like a male, I didn't have a female. I was like, I'll just get a female later on. Or if I get a female,
Yeah.
I'll find a male later on. And I think it would have been a lot better if I would have just planned everything out and be like, okay, this is the hog, this is the morph combination that I want to make. Let me find a male and a female that's gonna be able to produce that as well, instead of just collecting a bunch of snakes that don't really go with each other at all.
All right, a little guilty there. At first, I had a plan. All right, at first I had a plan. I got the female anaconda head snow with the male anaconda head snow. I was like, okay, maybe I can make some snows, some yetis. And then after that, I just started grabbing everything. I saw the Arctic, I had to get the super Arctic. I saw the sable, had to do it. The toffee belly had to just pull the trigger. And I'm just like, where am I going with this? But I don't regret it, not even one of them. I do wish I had more females though. Those are like impossible to find right now. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. This is the perfect time right now to get females, because towards the end of the year, you're not gonna find any females from this year
At all, yeah.
at
But
all.
there's a reptile show coming up here next month, so hopefully me and my girl are gonna go, and hopefully if I see one, I'll probably get one. But other than that, I know what I want. I want a nice looking lavender, one that actually like looks lavender, not one that just has the genetics. I want it to actually look like you can clearly see that's a lavender. And then if it's like a sub-adult female, I'm pulling the trigger. I might have to bring her home.
Yeah.
So that brings me to my next one. What's your favorite snake that you own right now between all your babies and everything like that?
Ooh.
Your
I would
favorite,
have to say my lemon ghost Woma, hands
Lemon
down.
Ghost Woma?
That was my dream snake for the longest, and it was crazy because I wanted a lemon ghost so bad, and I remember I passed up on a lemon ghost like
I remember I
3
saw that video
times
you
at
put up.
Reptile
Yeah,
Expo. I
you're
passed. It
kicking
was like,
yourself.
because I remember the first time I had an opportunity to get one, I had just bought a snake. I bought my Super Arctic Anaconda like maybe a few days before that Reptile Expo, and then I saw the Lemon Ghost, and I was like, man, I just bought a snake. I spent all this money. I was like, I can't do it. And it was a nice female. And then when I went to the Daytona Reptile Expo, the one last year, they had a guy at the table, and he had all kind of lemon ghosts. He had like different lines from like the Montana area. I'm not sure if you ever heard of like the Cascade Greens, but
I've
they're
heard
like,
of it, but I've been not just like
yeah, like
briefly though.
nobody sells them at all, man. It's just a few people that have them, and he had those crossed with lemon gold. Some of them were like neon green, and I passed up on it. I was just like, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right, and I still regret that from this day. I remember like this Daytona Expo that I went to this year, like I remember looking at when they released the list of all the vendors, I was trying to find a guy. That was the guy that I wanted to find. He didn't even vend this year, and I missed out on it. But then Jeff Gelwood, he listed a pure lemon ghost Woma on Morph Market, and as soon as I saw it, I shot him an inquiry, and I was like, I had a feeling I wasn't going to get it. I didn't even get my hopes up. And he was like, yeah, it's still available, and I was like, man, I can't believe it.
Yeah, I got a few to kick myself over it. I saw it was I think she was about like maybe 100, 150 grams, or maybe almost 200 grams female. It was a normal, but it was like it was supposed to be a holdback, and it was something about, I can't remember. I saw the picture somewhere, but something about her was different. The guy only wanted like $250. I was like, this can't be real. Like, nah. And I remember I was looking at it. And then finally it was like 2 a.m. I woke up, I was like, let me just send the inquiry. I'm still thinking about the snake. Sent the inquiry. He got back to me later on that day. He's like, oh, unfortunately, I just sold her. I'm like, oh my God, why didn't I just pull the trigger, man? Like, I should just got that thing. I could be breeding. I could be asking you about what I should do for my egg crates, but I'm not in a rush though. It's all things will happen in time. I'm trying to make sure everything's good, let's see. So one more last question would be like about like the hognose illnesses, because I know like what's the one? I think it's crypto, I think is what they call it.
Oh yeah, cryptosporidium.
Yeah, I know you had an experience with that too. I want to get into that because I would be devastated, man. Definitely hate that loss. Definitely that one definitely. I would have been devastated, but definitely appreciate you for at least giving out that information so people, can learn from that. And because I know a lot of people, even I didn't know, like, yeah, don't freeze your snake, put it in the refrigerator. That's something that I didn't know, you know what I mean? Yeah. And like, if that ever happened to me, I'd be screwed too. Like, I'd be like, well, I need to figure out what happened. But like, I definitely, is there like, do you think like hognoses are more susceptible to crypto, or do you think it's like kind of just like for all snakes, you just got to be careful in quarantine?
Yeah, I think you have to be careful. I think it's found like in boas more than hognose snakes, but it can be prevalent in any reptile. Also, there's like geckos. I know leopard geckos in the wild. Most of them will acquire cryptosporidium, like in the Middle East where they're from. But yeah, it's definitely something that you have to be aware of because it's very it's very contagious, and it comes from their feces. And you know, hognose snakes, they like to roll over, they like to crawl over their feces and everything. So that's why it's so important to quarantine your snakes. And what I do is I just, as soon as I get a snake, I test them for crypto. There's a laboratory in Texas, and I think it's $25 to get it tested. So you basically mail in a swab, a fecal swab, and they'll get back to you with the email letting you know if your snake is positive or negative. And so the recommendations are to actually they really the recommendations are really to quarantine your animal for like a year, and like every 3 months check them for crypto because they can have a false negative reading. But also I would just say just kind of keep an eye on your snake. Whenever you get a new hognose snake, it's pretty good to keep them on paper towel because then you can kind of examine their feces even more to see if they have diarrhea or if it's an odd color. You can't really do that if you have it on aspen too much.
Exactly.
I would just say just spend the $25 just to get the test, because if you're
I
spending $1,000,
thought it was gonna be more expensive than that. Yeah, because I mean, you spend $1,000 on hognose, $25 to make sure it's not gonna die and wipe out the rest of your whole collection. I think that says enough. That's worth it alone. Come on, man. That's crazy. So do you plan on I mean, you have the genetics to make another sunburst, right?
No, I don't. That's one of the things at Daytona I was like thinking about doing, to get back into the sunburst project. Now I do have a male that's an anaconda het sunburst, but the female I was thinking, I was like, maybe I should get. I was thinking about getting an albino het sable, but then I went by Fathom Hogs, Mitch Davey and John Rice, and Mitch had the two Arctic Condas 100% het Mai Tai, which are the sable toffee belly visual, and they were also 50% het lavender for the price that I would pay for like a sunburst female. And I was I've never seen that combination for sale before with those genetics, and I was like, I can always get a sunburst. A lot of people are making them now. I still think sunburst is like your whenever you see a sunburst compared to other hognose morphs, your eyes go directly to the sunburst, especially if it has like the red line, if it's that red vivid orange color. Even my hognose Cheeto, she was like an average I've seen way better versions of the sunburst.
She looked beautiful on your videos. I was like, yo,
you gotta see one that's like the dark orange, the ones that have the red line in it. It's amazing. But I was like, man, I couldn't pass up on those genetics, and I was like, if I skip out on getting those two snakes, I'm gonna regret that.
Like I did the last
Daytona. So I was like, I'm just gonna get that, and one day in the future I'll get back into the sunburst project.
Believe me, they're not going nowhere because I can't find a sable. I couldn't find a sable for anything. That's part of the reason everyone wants to make a sunburst. If it's anything het sable, if it's double het albino and sable, that skyrocket. That price is up, and it's probably gonna be gone the next day. So I bet you by next year we'll be seeing sunbursts all over the place.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, I mean, I think that's about it, man. One thing I do want to say is, what's up with your het leucistic, man? Like I'd be rolling over looking at her every day. That's crazy. That's like the goal right there.
So I got her last year from a guy named Jason Taylor with Beyond Genetics. That's his company. Yeah, she's 100% het leucistic, and they're pretty expensive. I think in a couple years the leucistic gene the price of it is gonna drop a lot. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna get her. It's a major investment, and then next year I'm gonna get a male for her, because the male leucistics are more expensive than the females, because if you get a visual male, anything you breed him to is gonna be het leucistic, and you're gonna make your money back
quick too, because it's not gonna take that long.
Yep. And so I was like, I know I need a male, but I really don't feel like spending $2,000 or $25, however much they are right now. And so I saw an opportunity to get this red It's red Hognose. He has purple line and extreme red genetics. He's also 100% het albino, and he's 50% het leucistic, and he was only $245. And I was like, I think I'll take my chances with him. And even if he doesn't prove out to be leucistic, by the time the female's ready to breed, the price is going to go down on him.
Exactly.
And if I can and if he proves out to be het leucistic, and I got him for $245,
oh, that's a win.
Het albino, I hit the jackpot. And then, and like I say, if he doesn't prove out, I do like his red color, and he's het albino, so I can use him for other projects in the future.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why I got my Super Arctic. He's 66% het toffee, but it's like, I mean, if he doesn't prove out, I'm not really worried about it. I really just got him because I suck at Arctic. I'm the worst at Arctic. It's so hard for me to tell them apart. So I like Arctic. I really want to work with that gene, but I was like, I have to get a super. That way, I just know everything's Arctic. You know,
that's exactly what I did.
I don't want no guesswork, man.
Yeah, when I got my super Arctic Anaconda, to prove out my female, now I know she's an Arctic Conda. I was like, I'm just gonna get a super Arctic, so I know everything. All the babies are gonna be Arctic, no matter what. I won't have any guesswork.
I'd hate to sell someone, you know what I mean, something that's Arctic that's not Arctic, you know what I mean? Like more than, I wouldn't mind if I sold someone like a normal snake and it turned out to be Arctic. I wouldn't even really care that much. But if I charge somebody more and it turns out it's not, then I would feel bad. Like, oh, my bad. You know what I mean? I suck. I thought it was, you know, that's just embarrassing. But yeah, man, I think we're going about the 48 minutes. That pretty much wraps it up, man. I definitely appreciate you. Appreciate your time. I'll put all the links in the descriptions when I upload the video. If you want me to put anything extra in there too, just let me know. Like if you want me to add your Morph Market ad, you know what I mean? Anything like that on there, in the description for the link, I'll be happy to. Anything like that too. So just let me know. I'll probably finish editing it. I usually edit at work because I work at night, so like it gives me something to do while I'm just chilling. I get to focus in, make money, and edit at the same time. So I'll probably have it up by like Tuesday morning. So I'll go on Monday night, then I'll be done Tuesday in the morning. So yeah, but if you have any questions or anything like that, or if you want me to put anything in, just let me know and I'll fix it all up. Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate you for having me on your platform, man.
No, of course, man. Like I said, bro, like you the one that started this with me. Like even every time the song comes on, I play your videos. Everyone's in the house is like, hey, we all know the theme song, man. Like you're definitely, man. I think you're bigger than you know, man. Like you got the best videos out here. You got the most information. And like when I was looking for Hognose information, that's what I was so happy when I came across your video. I was like, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about. Then I watched another one. I'm like, oh wait a minute. He's like, I mean, you're feeling my fix. I'm really trying to figure out about Hognoses, but there's people out there doing it, but your videos are super detailed, super informative, and it's just like I just appreciate everything you're doing for just the hobby and just for us in general. You know what I mean? So keep on doing it, man. Definitely
means a lot hearing that.
No, definitely, man. You're killing it, man. But yeah, let me know if you want me to put any extra links or anything in the description when I upload it. All right.
Okay.
All right, my guy. You have a good one, man. I can't wait to see your next video. I got my bell set, so just let me know.
All right.
Have a good day, man. Enjoy your weekend. All right.
Same to you.
All right. Thank you.